Yes, it is playoff time again.
Playoff.
All right, Jim, knock it off. We get it. Jeez, the playoff soundbite. It is your host, the commish, John David Brake, for the all-important round 2. That's right, we are here. It is the second to last week of fantasy football. Oh, it's devastating, except for the people still around. I'm your commission host, John David Brake. Let's get into this week's playoff preview, and we're going to find out who's in the Hoffa Bowl. And let's see how that all shook down as we go to last week's scores for the semifinal or quarterfinals. Yeah, that's what this thing says. Quarterfinal rounds. Let's start with the big game there. Insane Ground Posse had a huge win, 193 over Jables. Modelo Virus 156. Josh Allen, I mean, he just continues to dominate. And look at that, Jonnu Smith, another solid game with Josh Jacobs. And I was a little wrong on the Bo Nix pick there for Jable. Should have gone with Jaden. Dan Nichols suffers defeat, not going after number 4 this year, thanks to Abby getting the win 167 to 123, thanks in part to A.J. Brown, like I called it. And a solid performance from Joe Burrow. Not a lot of production. David Montgomery left, and he is done for the season. And boy, oh boy, it's the Hoffa Bowl. That's right. The losers of these two games are playing each other. And one of them is Mick Barton, loses 173 to 105. Look at that. Brock Purdy, Jalen Warren, 2 points each. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 points. And even though Plow got 0 from Cooper Kupp, still got the win. Mick is in the Hoffa Bowl, and he's taking on Nick Shook, who lost 148 to 216. Dahlgren with a points explosion. 47 points from Devontae Adams. Najee Harris, 3 points. And yes, Evan Ingram was on the IR, and Nick still played him anyways. Oh, that's just depressing. So there you have it. That is, we'll get to that matchup here in a bit, but let's talk about the quarterfinal matchups. The final 4 teams, all stacked, all just on top all season long. And let's start out with one that's near and dear to my heart that I am terrified of. It is the number 1 overall seed. Pokemon got to catch them all versus Purdy Little Liars in the quest for his 3rd championship, to be the 3rd owner in the league to be a 3-time champion. And boy, oh boy, it's number 1 versus number 4, and we are going to break down the rosters. I'm going to pull out a player that's going to be a difference maker for each team to win. And let's start with the number 1 overall team. Pokemon got to catch them all. This roster is solid, but there are concerns specifically at the wide receiver 2 position and the running back. So first of all, Jalen Hurts, he's solid. Amon-Ra St. Brown, solid. This is where it gets tricky. Will George Pickens play? That is very, very much up in the air. He had a grade 2 hamstring injury taking on the Baltimore Ravens that give up a lot of points in the air, surprisingly. And it really is probably going to be a game-time decision. Now, the backups there, probably Jade McMillan from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or it could be a Rashad Bateman. That is going to be a very tough decision. And, speaking of tough decisions, Jalen Hurts is on the verge of being benched for Baker Mayfield. That is very much up in the air. If you think you know who I should start, be sure to comment below if you would start Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield this week. But right now, it's Jalen Hurts' team, and look at the 2 running backs here. Saquon Barkley, solid. Derrick Henry, this is the big question mark. He has not produced of late. Not that he hasn't been doing great, it's just they're not running the ball a lot. Lamar Jackson threw 5 touchdowns last week, and they really didn't need him. And he's going up against a Pittsburgh defense that is very solid, and they only let him, I think he scored 9 points the last time they played the Steelers. This is in Baltimore. Again, that is a very tricky situation. Do you go Derrick Henry or do you go Rico Dowdle? That is another tricky situation. If you were in that position, let me know what direction you go. Brock Bowers was not great last week. Thank goodness Desmond Ridder is not going to be the quarterback. It is going to be Aiden O'Connell, who has better rapport with Brock Bowers. That is a solid play against a Jacksonville defense. And then Chase Brown, the bell cow running back in the Cincinnati Bengals backfield. What a huge lift that has been to this team. Putting that type of player in the flex. That's Yahoo's projecting a 177 projection. And I really hope I can get there. And what's going to get me there is just what I mentioned. It is going to be Chase Brown in that flex spot. He has been amazing these last few weeks. Now that he's taken over the role, what kind of points is he going to put up against the Cleveland Browns, who are not starting Jameson Winston? There's a potential that the Bengals are going to get the ball a lot. They're going to be up a lot, and they're going to run a lot. It is at home in Cincinnati, and in order to make sure this thing doesn't get out of hand and give Abby a chance, he's going to have to put up at least 20 points. I think he will overproject this week against the Cleveland Browns. So, with that being said, let's look at Abalash's ready roster. He's projected to score 150 points, and he also has a very solid roster. Starting at the tippy top with one of the best quarterbacks in all of fantasy football, Joe Burrow there. Again, as I mentioned, Chase Brown. He's going up against the Browns. Will he throw a lot? Will he throw to Chase Brown a lot? That also happens. And A.J. Brown, it looks like him and Jalen Hurts are both on good terms, and that is a conflict of interest there for myself and Abby, especially Abby, because Jalen Hurts, anytime he throws it to A.J. Brown, that's not good for me. But he needs those touchdowns very badly for A.J. Brown, and that helps me. Here's, oh boy, and then Puka Nacua. You know, he didn't have a great game last week. He's going up against the Jets. There are a lot. Look at all this red here going down the roster. There are a lot of tough matchups for Puka. His running backs are solid, absolutely solid, like Joe Mixon and Brian Robinson Jr. Both very, very good running backs. Tough opponents on the ground. Again, it's that Philadelphia-Washington game, going back to that. Cole Kmet, this is the one really glaring weak spot, is the tight end and flex. Cole Kmet, not sure if he's going to be a factor against the Lions. And Isaac Guerrero there, going against the Dolphins. The Niners are an absolute free fall. Whew, and I'm looking down this roster, I think this is going to come down to what Puka Nacua can do against the New York Jets football team. Puka, he is absolutely capable of putting up a 40-some game. He did just a couple weeks ago against Buffalo, putting up 46. That is what I'm scared of. I am scared to death of another 40-plus game from Puka Nacua. Now he is going up against the Jets, which is a tough defense. So Abby needs Puka to produce and he needs Puka to have at least a 30-point game to make this close. And coming down to my predictions, I rarely pick myself in the playoffs because I've been here, done that. I know what happens. I have a great squad. I'm the number 1 overall seed. I get the first round bye. This has happened multiple times. And I lose, and I lose, and I lose, except for that one time over 11 years ago. So I'm taking Abby. I'm taking Abby to win this week. In my gut, I think I win, but in my heart, I truly believe I will be extremely disappointed this season, unless my defense shows out, you know. We don't really talk about the defense on here. But there are some players that could make a huge difference and score flex-type points. But let's go over to the other matchup. Man, this is going to be a good game. Holy cow. Insane Ground Posse taking on the Dak Street Boys, Austin Stoll. Austin going for the illustrious, the mountaintop of being the first ever 4-time LEG champion. That has never been done in this league. No one has gotten 4. And he is going up against one of the hottest teams in the league. Joe Murdoch's team is on fire. Let's look at Joe's roster. Now, he did have the 3rd seed, a big win last week against Jabal. And a lot of that is because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been a man-possessed recently, just throwing tutties, running for tutties, catching tutties. He has been undoubtedly trying to compete with Lamar Jackson for the MVP. Wonder what other team has Lamar Jackson. At the wide receiver, again, just you don't expect these to be the names that you start in the lineup, but Adam Thielen, Courtland Sutton. I mean, they've been performing. Now, Thielen did not have a great game, just put up 10 points last week. Courtland Sutton also modest 13 points against the Colts. Thought he was going to do more. Josh Jacobs has been an absolute stud this season, and he's going up against a very battered New Orleans Saints team. And I'm kind of, I've got mixed feelings about Jonathan Taylor. Oh boy, Colts are done. Going up against the Tennessee Titans team. They're at home. Jonathan Taylor may be mad and may be running to make up for that horrible bonehead play, dropping the ball in the end zone. I can't believe it still happens. Jonnu Smith has also been a huge bright spot for Joe. One of the many reasons he is even in this position is getting Jonnu Smith at tight end. And then Alvin Kamara, big question mark here. Is he going to play? The Saints have nothing to play for, and he's got a groin injury. We don't know if he's going to play or not. He was forced out there against the Washington Commanders. We may see Kendre Miller, and we just don't know. His health will not be made available until later in the week. So a huge question mark could change everything for Joe. And on that roster, I mentioned it. I really, really think the key, because we know Josh Allen's going to be great. We know Josh Jacobs is going to be great. This is going to hinge on Jonathan Taylor. Is he going to come back with a vengeance? Is he going to take revenge for a horrible play that essentially killed their playoff chances last week after then surrendered 3 touchdowns in a row? Oh boy, Jonathan Taylor needs to have a big game. He's projected to score 14 points against the Titans. I think if he gets 25 or more, this will be his chance to put away Austin's goal for 4. Shut the door on 4, Joe Murdoch. Now, let's go over to Austin Stoll's team. The 2nd overall seed all season long has been nipping at my heels and has been a tremendous, tremendous team this year. And that's thanks in large part to, like I mentioned, Lamar Jackson. We get Lamar versus Josh Allen this week. This is going to be amazing. And he also, look at those 2 receivers. DJ Moore and Juwan Jennings versus Adam Thielen and Courtland Sutton. I would have never in a million years thought that. Just the wide receiver has been so weird this year. It's been all about the running backs, and look at that. Bijan Robinson has been one of the top running backs, and the reason why Austin is in it. Tony Pollard, now he did get hurt last week, but he came back in, and he's going up against a Colts run defense that is not the same. Now, granted, they've not been playing very good teams, but they do not give up as much on the ground as they had early on in the season. Mark Andrews, this is going to kind of be a hit or miss for him. He's going up against Pittsburgh. That is a tough defense. He scored 10 points last week against the Giants. He has scored double digits the last 3 games, and I look for that streak to continue. He's projected to only get 9, but I think he gets at least 12 to 15 against Pittsburgh. And then another big question mark, the same as Joe, Kenneth Walker III. He is also hurt with a calf injury. He did have a workout on Monday, but his status is still in limbo, according to Michael Sean Duggar of The Athletic. So we may not see him. We may see more Zach Charbonnet playing that Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, who are trying to win the division. I can't believe that was Sam Darnold. Boy, this one is projected to be a big blowout win for Joe, but I think it's going to be way, way closer. And Austin is going to need big production from Mark Andrews. That is the person I'm pulling out of here that needs to go have a above and beyond game, because he's got to match what Jonnu Smith is going to produce. Mark Andrews' role in this Pittsburgh Steelers game, a division battle, it's going to be at home. I need Mark Andrews to score around 15 to 20 points. If Mark Andrews scores 20 points, Austin has a real chance of beating Joe, because right now this is an upset if Austin wins according to projections, even though he's the 2nd overall seed. But Joe has been on fire, and man, it's so close to call. I mean, the MVPs battling each other, the whole flex question marks, the running backs. It's much closer than the projections are showing. But I'm going to give the edge to Joe Murdoch. That's right. I'm giving the edge to Joe to beat Austin and slam the door on 4. Hashtag it, baby. Slam the door on 4 for Austin Stoll and to make the championship for the 2nd time in 3 years. Woo! Wouldn't that be great? We could possibly see a Joe versus Abby championship. Hopefully it's me. That would be great. Now, let's get to the Hoffa Bowl. That's right. Oh, I'm so excited. I pretty much called this a long time ago, saying it was going to be a Mick versus Nick Hoffa Bowl, and that's exactly what we have in store. 2 of the worst teams, 2 of the lowest scoring teams, 2 of the only teams that did not get more than 3 wins, and boy, it has been a depressing season for both teams. Let's look at Mick Barton's roster. Just a litany of issues, injuries, underperformance, a bunch of busts on this roster, no running backs at all. As a matter of fact, right now, as I look at this mix, only has one running back starting. But I think he's probably going to go Ray Davis there in the starting spot. I don't think he's going to go Travis Etienne or Raheem Mostert because Jeremy Nichols is worthless, and he was minimally involved against the Saints. Brock Purdy at the quarterback, he might go Kyler. I bet he goes Kyler this week against the Carolina Panthers, which means he's firing up all three Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. And then this is where I really like Mick here, is in the flex spot. Look at that. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been on a tear as of late. 19, 19, 11, 19, 24, 43. That's since week 9. He's been putting up those types of numbers. An absolute bomb at the flex spot. I don't like the Jalen Warren play, and Garrett Wilson, that is so hit or miss with the Jets just being so schizophrenic. And out of this group, in order for Mick to take this, he is going to need a big performance from Marvin Harrison Jr. That's right, I'm highlighting Marvin's kid, Marvin Harrison Jr. He needs to step up and have a big game, put a statement on the end of this very disappointing season, only scoring single digits the last 3 out of the last 4 games. And they're going up against a Carolina team that has something to play for. They're playing for pride, you know. Bryce Young's playing okay. But I think the Cardinals really step it up. They don't want to be embarrassed. They want to end the season on a positive note. So that is going to be my key for Mick to win, to get at least like a 25 to 30 point game for Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't think he's scored more than 31 points all season. That was his highest, and that was way back in week 2 against the Rams. Now let's take a look at lowly Nick Shook. Oh, Nick Shook, just been phoning it in these last few weeks, seeing the writing on the wall, keeping Hoffa nice and comfy in his basement, and he might not have to do anything. It might just leave him right there hanging on the mantle in the bar. Let's look at the roster and see why. Now, you look at the first 4 players, and you question, how did it get so bad? C.J. Stroud at quarterback, Justin Jefferson, one of the top receivers in the league, and Nico Collins. Now, again, injuries have kind of curbed Nico's production, but pairing that with C.J. Stroud, at the beginning of the season, anybody would want that. Najee Harris has been disappointing after having a little bit of a good run there from about week 6 to week 14, only putting up 3 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going up against a tough rush defense against the Baltimore Ravens. And I mentioned this earlier with Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet getting the start. That could be a sneaky good start because he is absolutely capable of putting up 30-point performances. He is going up against the Minnesota Vikings defense there. He did just score 40 points 2 weeks ago. But Minnesota is tough on the run, but he also gets a lot of catches out of the backfield. I don't like the tight end, Mike Gesicki, but Jerome Ford, now Nick Chubb is hurt. This is also a very good flex play for Mr. Nick Shook. Oh, as much as I want to see, I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be the key here. I really do. I think Zach Charbonnet, if he gets the start, he is going to have to put up another 30-point game to at least eclipse the projected 131 from Mick. Mick has the better roster, but that's really probably the only way he's going to get there. And also some C.J. Stroud-Nico combinations. That won't hurt. But he needs Zach Charbonnet to have a big game in order to keep it close. But I don't think it's going to be close. I think we're going to look at our first 4-time Hoffa winner, Nicholas Shook. May God have mercy on your soul. And good luck to everyone out there. Thanks for watching and keeping involved in the league as the playoffs and the season wind to a close. Again, being sure to stay involved on the comment section down there. Let me know who you would start. Let me know who you'd pick. Be sure to like, smash that subscribe button. And thank you so much. We will see you next week for a very special Christmas episode and championship edition of LEG TV. We'll see you next time.